So welcome to another tech video. So today we have got this Dell Inspiron that apparently it's got a damaged hinge, and just looking at the bottom of it we can see which one it is. It's this one on the power side, and the screen bezels come away. You can see the gap there. So we are going to see if we can repair this today. These Dell Inspirons, this is a 15-inch model number 3515. It's the one where the hinge goes around the back and raises the back up a little bit. These are renowned for it, so we've done a few of these this week. So let's now go ahead and see if we can get into it. The first thing we want to do is obviously remove all of the screws. Now, Dell have been really good, and they're making these a lot easier to get into and a lot easier to repair. So we're going to go through all of that today. And the first thing you want to do is obviously remove all of the screws around the sides. And you will notice in a sec that I'm going to take out the middle screw at the back first of all, which is this one here. And the reason for that is these two on the right are what we call they're like captive screws, so they don't come out and they raise the corner up to allow you to get into the unit itself. So you just turn those screws until you hear them click like that. And then you'll see that the edges have come away, and we can now carefully start to prise the cover up. So just around the edges, and then once that back comes up, you can unclip the back. This one's a bit trickier, so let's see if we can do it from the front. There we go. Turn it round. There we go. Right. Now the cover should just come off, which it does, and then we are left with the unit. So inside we've got our battery, memory, SSD drive, wireless card. So what we're going to do first of all is we are going to simply gently pull this battery cable out to disconnect the battery. That's the only really thing that we need to do. And then we're going to remove the screws from the hinges, of which there are 4. So just make a note of where they go, because the captive screws go back through the hinge to secure it on the bottom as well. Now, the part that breaks on these is not the hinge assembly on the unit itself, because they've got a metal body. They're good, solid screw points to go into on the chassis. It's the cover that's the problem. Okay, so once you've got that done, the next thing you want to do is just to try and ease up the hinge carefully. There we go. And once you've done that, you should be able to get it out. Now the next thing we want to do is we're going to remove the Wi-Fi card, which is in the center here. And the reason we're going to remove the card is because the aerials, or the aerial connectors on these, are so delicate that you don't want to be messing around and damaging that at all. So we actually go ahead and take the whole card out, and then we just unfeed the cable. Which goes under there like that. Oh, that aerial has actually come out. So that's going to be a fiddly one to get back in, but we will do that. There we go. So you're unrouting all of the cable all the way around so that it's free, and then you can take the base unit. Sorry, first of all, there's two more connectors. So on the right here, this is the screen connector. So you just want to get a little prizer tool, flip that up, and then that screen connector will come out like that. And that should be all we need to take out. There we go. And then we can take this and put this to one side. Okay, so where were we? Not sure where we were, but so we've got I've taken the hinge cover off this side, and we now need to try and get the hinge cover off this side, which we can do carefully. Like that. And we can see that the hinge has come out of its holding behind there. So what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to take a pair of pliers, and on this side I'm going to loosen the nut that's on the end of it, so we don't end up with another broken hinge. That's not very good, that one. So let's try the long nose pliers, that's better. Just give it a few turns just so that loosens up a little bit. And then on this side we're going to do that once we've got the hinge out. So to get the hinge out, we're going to take our prizer tool, we're going to come under the screen bezel, and we're just going to slide our fingers carefully along there to try and remove that, and then we can bend that out the way. We can actually take our hinge out. What we want to do is just to make sure we've got enough room to be able to work on that, and you can see what happens basically if we have a look in here. The screws that the nuts that the screws go into break away from the plastic, and we can see that on here as well. You can see it's all worn away, so we're going to give that a clean up. Now what I use to give this a clean is I'm going to take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a cloth, and I'm going to clean the metal hinge, and I'm going to clean the plastic under there so that it is free of grease. We're just going to give that a wipe around all of that hinge assembly to make sure that that is free from grease, because we're going to actually, it's not a bodge job, but we are going to glue it back in. We're not going to, God, that is really stiff. So we're going to take our pliers and we're going to get that on the end of the nut, and we're going to slacken that off until that becomes nice and free. It's a little bit too loose, that is, at the moment, but I'd rather have it too loose, and we'll tighten it up a bit later. So we'll give that a good clean around there. So that's that base of the hinge assembly cleaned. Now we're going to get this bezel up. I'm going to blow away all that rubbish under there. I'm going to take that, and we're just going to give that a little scrape out. And make sure that that is cleanish in there. Okay, so what are we going to use to stick this hinge back on that is going to be strong enough? Well, we are using liquid raw plug basically. This stuff is called R-Kem 2. It is like a raw plug filler, as you can see, goes into brickwork, plastic, all substrates basically, and it's good for indoor and outdoor use, and concrete and hollow substrate, so it dries rock solid, better than sort of Araldite and all that sort of thing. This was supplied to us by our lovely neighbour, which is fantastic. So What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this. Before I open the lid, I'm going to cut myself a couple of strips of cable tie, which I'm going to use to mix it up and then to add. So I'm just going to cut a couple of strips of cable tie up. Let's do 3. And then I'm going to take some of this stuff and I'm going to push it get that on there. Now this stuff goes off, once it's mixed, it goes off pretty quickly. So you only get one shot at this, so we're going to give this a good mix up. And then we're going to lift up the corner here. I'm just going to move those underneath and out the way for the minute. And you want to make sure that you get this in all of the holes. And I'm also going to spread it around the whole hinge assembly, so it makes it pretty final. Right. Okay, that's that. And then we take our hinge assembly. Take that out, get that in there. Because it only goes in one place. And that will go off in around about 5 to 10 minutes. So once you've got that in the right place, we're going to want to get a little bit of weight on there, just so it doesn't move while it's drying. You want to also, when you're pushing down on the hinge, you want to make sure that you don't get it on the screen, because what you don't want to do is break the screen. What I'm actually going to do now is I'm just going to put that tape measure on there, just to hold that away. Okay, I can feel that going off now. That is now, this bezel is being held away from the screen. That's not touching the hinge. The hinge is in, looks like the correct place. Okay, there we go. That has now gone off. So now we just want to leave that to set. Normally I'll leave that for around about 20 to 30 minutes, which will ensure that it is absolutely rock solid. How's this looking? Yeah, so this is all now going solid. So now our hinge has set correctly. We've got our bezel routed back under there, all clipped back in, and you can see on the edge you always get left with a little tiny gap. Actually that will go in with a bit of pressure and a little bit of adhesive, but we're not going to worry about that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take our base again. So we want to turn that round, and then we want to route that into the correct place. Route that into the correct place and carefully place that down on top, and then we can take our hinge and which will only go into the correct position because it's got a little peg in here. And this one as well, being very careful because this is our replaced hinge, and again we've got a peg down the bottom there that we can see makes everything line up nicely. Then we can take our 4 hinge screws, noting where they were, and then we take our Wi-Fi cable and we reroute that back round. And then we can get our card connected. Now we need to get this black cable back on, so this goes on the left hand connector, so this is number 1, goes in slot 1. You get that onto the top and just pop that in so it clicks in. Then we want to take our Wi-Fi card holder downerer, and that goes over the top like that, and then we can concentrate on now just routing our cables back where they should be. There we go. Right, next thing is we want to connect our display port cable. So making sure that the cover is flipped up, that just slots in one position and the clip goes back down on there. And making sure that cable is in the correct place, out of the way. Now we want to get our hinge covers back on. We're actually going to do that once we've got the screen opened, so we can connect our battery back in now, like that. We're just going to rest that cover on top there. Okay, so no, the covers need to go back on first. Like that. Just slide over the top. Like that. There we go. Now we can pop our cover back on and just gently push down on the corners around the sides to lock that into place. We're going to do these 2 screws up first. So it pulls the corners down. There we go. And then the rest of the screws can be popped in. And there we go. So if we have a look at the back now, that looks pretty good. This one's not quite clipped in, so we will sort that out in a sec. And then once you've got the cover back on, it's just a matter of going around making sure that it's all clipped into place nicely. And then raising the screen up, that all works okay. That's not falling down, so that's just about the right strength. What we're going to do is we're going to give this a good clean now. And then let's see if the screen's okay. Should be. There we go. Whew. Always takes a few seconds longer once the battery's been disconnected, but yeah, that's all there is to it. So if you found that video useful, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I just want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.